In the ghost story, each alley has its own theme, just like how shops in real life often cluster together by type, forming a commercial district. Of course, these alleys appear unpredictably, and their occurrence rates vary. Confirmed sections of Death Lane. Currently, we were in the alley that sells everyday goods, but somehow I was heading straight for the most uninviting shop in this alley. A butcher shop, displaying hanging, writhing organs and flesh. Think of it as a haunted house. It's fine. Nothing here looks like its original form in life. They're just parts. I'll pretend this is an animatronic attraction at an amusement park. Wait, no. Thinking about amusement parks just reminds me of Cheerful Theme Park, and that's even scarier. I can't back down now. Feigning composure, I took steady steps toward the butcher shop.
Fresh meat butcher shop.
Beneath the red and blue lights shining on the glass window, the shopkeeper, who had been sharpening a knife on a stone, raised their head. A hulking figure in a blood-soaked apron. Upon closer inspection, a skinned cow with only chunks of flesh left on its head stared back at us. It gestured toward us, as if inviting us closer with the promise of good service.
Supervisor, wait!
Kang Yihak stepped in front of me.
Haha, I don't think we need anything from this shop. Let's check out another one.
But the shopkeeper's already signaling us. It'd feel rude not to go in.
Quite right. It's good manners, after all.
Realizing her voice had grown too loud, Kang Yihak quickly lowered it, speaking urgently.
The manual explicitly says not to enter meat-themed alleys.
Manual entry. Meat-themed alleys. Upon discovering a meat-themed alley in Death Lane, do not enter. Stay in the previous alley. If entry is unavoidable, e.g., being chased by a vendor, block out sound using earbuds and walk 1,000 steps as quickly as possible to move to the next alley. If a companion gets caught up in a vendor sampling offer, leave them behind and move ahead at a faster pace.
Just reading these instructions was enough to send chills down one's spine.
Oh, so you remember, then.
And with that, I strode toward the butcher shop. I'm sorry, Mr. Buffalo. You're free to run if you want. But I could hear the footsteps of both my companions following me. Apparently, they'd decided to stick with me. Huh. I thought they'd bolt. Maybe I'm the one who wanted to run the most. But if I stopped now, I'd likely end up dragged around by Kang Yihak's schemes again. So, I kept moving forward. Eventually, the three of us stood side by side in front of the brightly lit butcher shop, with its grotesque display of writhing body parts. Of course, I was at the front. The skinned cow stared at me. I couldn't look too closely. I unfocused my eyes and glanced near the shopkeeper's neck. But the sight of pulsing veins made me quickly shift my gaze to their blood-stained apron. The apron was somehow less disturbing.
Hello. Do you offer fresh packages by any chance? You have a lot of good cuts here. Could I see the front limbs?
The skinned cow's head moved, opening the glass door. From within, the front limbs were pulled out and displayed before me. Still writhing, still alive. And then a trembling human hand with a ringed finger. Desperately scraping against the glass floor, I had to hold it together. Feigning indifference, I looked down at the display. There wasn't a suitable left hand among them. Having endured this mental torment, it'd be nice to get some kind of reward out of it. Pushing aside thoughts of assistant manager Yoon Haje, I paused for a moment before speaking to the butcher.
Something with sturdy bones would be better for a rich broth. Do you happen to have anything with eyes?
Having already been declined once, the shopkeeper's movements grew rough. I could faintly hear my companions holding their breath behind me. I, too, took a deep breath to suppress my fear. The front limbs were cleared away, revealing rows of eyeballs before me. A black sclera eye with violet irises, a fist-sized blue eye, a lens with bits of flesh still attached, a white, trembling eye unfocused, and a desperate dark brown eye gazing at me. I closed my eyes briefly, then opened them.
That one looks good. I'd like to buy it. No need to cut it up.
The skinned cow stared blankly at me before extending its hand. A clear gesture. Payment was required.
Supervisor, maybe you should subtly check what form of payment they want.
I retrieved a box from my tattoo inventory. A heavy box filled with corn and carrots landed in front of the shop.
I'll pay with this.
When attempting barter at this butcher shop, the items must be food consumable by cattle. That's right. While the shops in Death Lane often use peculiar currencies, we don't have access to them. So we have to rely on bartering. Since each shop accepts different goods, I'd stuffed my tattoo inventory with a mix of daily necessities, jewelry, and snacks, including a box of vegetables. Of course, some shops demand something no sane person would willingly give, but this should suffice here.
How much of this would you like?
The butcher extended its hand to take the entire pile of vegetables. My companions, who had been silently horrified by my inventory trick, suddenly looked relieved.
Oh, the trade went through? Hold on, all of it?
I frowned and interrupted.
That's too expensive. I mean, no matter how fresh it's been packaged, there should be limits. It wasn't easy for me to bring these here in such good condition.
My companions now stared at me as if I'd lost my mind, but I kept talking.
Did you raise the price just because I selected it? Or is this a general supply issue? I see, you've been struggling. But even so, this goes over my budget. Whew.
I let the silence hang deliberately. The shopkeeper remained silent as well. The skinned cow's head seemed to blankly watch me before finally moving toward what appeared to be the cash register. It returned holding a handful of rusted coins, with all numbers and letters printed in reverse. Not all shops accept bartering, and in those cases, you need coins to escape. How perfectly scripted, the joy of a well-prepared performance. Smiling, I accepted the coins.
This change will do. Thank you. I'll take my purchase now.
The skinned shopkeeper excitedly rose and began packaging the item I bought. The wildly rolling black eye was sealed in transparent liquid and handed to me in a plastic wrap. I tried my best not to look too closely at either the coins or the item. Blood splattered from the shopkeeper's apron onto my face, and onto Jang Heo-eun's face as well. Jang Heo-eun, wearing his buffalo mask, stiffened and lowered his head. He was likely fighting the urge to vomit. I jumped in and started talking.
My friend here seems a bit weak from hunger. We should head back soon so he can eat something.
The skinned cow peered intently at Jang Heo-eun, just as he began to break into a cold sweat, frozen stiff. It was one of the ears of corn I had used as payment. Jang Heo-eun, with trembling hands, took the corn. The shopkeeper stared blankly at him for a moment before returning to their seat in front of the butcher shop's glass door. We quickly walked away from the fresh meat butcher shop. At the same time, I glanced at Jang Heo-eun, who was gripping the corn tightly. More specifically, I looked at what he was wearing. It seemed the shopkeeper had mistaken him for a buffalo. As expected, the masks from Daydream Inc. were no ordinary items. They worked like dream essence collectors.
Don't give up on your body. Remaining steps, 7,999.
Our steps only stopped when the next alley came into view. I immediately checked on Jang Heo-eun.
Huh? Oh, yes. Well, since the blood was all cleaned off and the cuts were neat, I think I'm fine now.
Isn't it more horrifying that they were so clean yet still alive? But fear points differ from person to person. Best to respect that. At least he seemed okay now, which was a relief. His complexion looked fine too. Just as we were about to move again.
What was that just now? How did you manage that trade?
Let's go all in one more time. I deliberately asked back in a casual tone.
That thing you bought. The manual clearly says to avoid meat-themed alleys, but you handled it all so smoothly, like you were prepared.
But I couldn't admit that, so I replied,
From the manual's description of meat-related shops, I figured it'd be like a restaurant district. The problem usually comes from eating things, right?
I lifted the bag containing my purchase.
But this is a butcher shop. I assumed I could just buy without eating anything. And judging by the display,
I spun the bag around to show them the bizarre black eyeball.
since it's alive, I figured it could be used for something else. For example, organ transplants.
Explorers don't buy food at this butcher shop. There's a record of an employee successfully attaching a tongue purchased from the fresh meat butcher shop into their mouth. It functioned perfectly, enabling movements impossible for humans. If you attach a fresh, still-living part from this shop to a missing body part, it becomes functional. Sometimes it even carries over abilities the original part possessed. Of course, blindly approaching this shop without knowing that and trying to buy something is absolutely insane.
In places, it's vital to make creative inferences from limited clues.
Trying to gain an edge through wild guesses is a surefire way to get yourself killed. Everyone knows that such moves are a last resort when there's no other escape. But I had no choice but to act calm and crazy. After all, lunatics always have their own impeccable line of logic.
I succeeded with my inference. Is there a problem?
There were bound to be plenty. Sure enough, Kang Yihak stared at me with her mouth agape. Whoa, that startled me.
You're absolutely right. Wow, I see now. To achieve high rewards, you have to think differently from the crowd. I've been too cautious, worrying about risks this whole time. Life is all or nothing anyway, isn't it? Haha! Exactly!
Something's off here.
All right, let's move forward. Wow, it's been a while since I've met a superior worth emulating.
At that moment, it hit me. I still had the silver heart badge pinned inside my pocket, and I used it while rambling nonsense, so it ended up convincing her. The issue was that this situation was still bizarre. The silver heart isn't a brainwashing tool, it's a persuasion tool. Its effectiveness relies on both logical validity and emotional resonance. So logically, this kind of absurd rant shouldn't have worked.
I'll make sure to.
This person genuinely believes the insane logic I spouted made sense. What kind of person is this? A cold sweat trickled down my back. I turned to my one last hope, a sane colleague. Mr. Hyoan, at least you.
Yes, I'll.
Congratulations. You've earned the trust of your colleagues, friend.
But something feels off. For now, the only option was to keep walking and get out of here.
Don't give up on your body. Remaining steps, 6,999.
Surprisingly, the next alley went smoothly. So did the one after that.
These are lighting shops. Don't look directly at the windows, or you'll risk going blind or getting burned. Let's pretend we're chatting and avoid looking at them as we walk.
The alleyways were lined with all sorts of bizarre and mystical shops. Still, since I knew the manual by heart, it felt like taking a pop quiz after memorizing the textbook. Of course, the stakes were death if I got even one answer wrong, so I stayed hyper-focused.
Oh, a pharmacy. Shall I try buying something there this time? What do you think, Supervisor? You okay with it, Mr. Buffalo?
Yes, I'm fine with it.
The items don't seem particularly valuable, so let's keep moving.
Right. Gotta save our bullets for the big stuff. Haha!
Why does it feel like they expect me to make bold purchases again? And the worst part? It seemed like they'd fully supported it. That was the most nerve-wracking part. Meanwhile, the shop I suspected might have the chocolate I came here for wasn't anywhere to be seen. It was exhausting, sneaking glances around without making eye contact with the shopkeepers. Who?
Don't give up on your body. Remaining steps, 4,999.
Supervisor, a new alley appeared.
I stopped and looked at the narrow gap between the pharmacies. From within, a foul stench wafted out. It was a cramped back alley, barely half the width of the street vendor alley, but overwhelmingly dark. The alley stretched ahead, lined with rickety side doors. A few gas lamps flickered faintly, barely lighting the way. In that dim light, thick, sewer-like sludge oozed from pipes beside the doors, only to disappear into the darkness. And beneath the gas lamps, leaning against the walls, were skeletal, hunched silhouettes. Clad in filthy, tattered uniforms, they stared right at us, taking everything into account. Even if this wasn't a ghost story, the atmosphere screams turn around and get out immediately. The alley exuded a chilling and eerie vibe that made any normal transaction seem impossible.
This isn't in the manual.
At this point, even Daydream Inc. hadn't conducted an official exploration here. It was an unfamiliar and unknown alley to the staff. I have to go in there. And the fact that I wouldn't even have to convince my teammates to enter this insane place also made me want to cry. With a heavy heart, I turned to my companions and said,
We're going into that alley.
Looks like a black market spot. High profits guaranteed.
"Please, let me be the only lunatic in this group." Even within the noisy, bizarre night market filled with non-human entities, this dark and foul-smelling place felt distinctly out of place. Under the flickering gaslights, strange figures in uniforms fixed their hollow eyes on me as I stood at the mouth of the alley. This looks like the kind of place you'd rather avoid stepping into with polished shoes. And I couldn't let my teammates notice that I was momentarily frozen by the sight. I stepped into the back alley. My teammates followed close behind. Walking between narrow walls under dim gaslights, we passed rows of tightly clustered side doors. The scene felt like stepping into a poorly stitched together image meant to stretch endlessly with its strange side doors. As we walked between the doors, eyes stared at us from both sides. Figures in filthy, stained uniforms. Their abnormally thin, black bodies stood silently against the walls, their heads turning too.
A star is always subject to attention, but even stars need a break. As always, this brawn could relieve that burden for you.
I felt like screaming and begging him to do exactly that, but I couldn't use lights out now. I'll save it for when I truly need it. Right. I had to endure this. I swallowed hard and kept walking. Just as the chill creeping up my neck made my legs stiffen to the point where walking became difficult. My teammate's exclamation snapped me out of it. The endless side doors, the figures in uniforms, and then a door, slightly ajar. The door was protruding slightly. From the crack came an inky darkness. It was straight out of a horror movie. My eyelids twitched from the tension. But I had to say this.
There's a door slightly open over there. It seems like a welcoming sign. Let's go in.
Shouldn't they be questioning this nonsense? But I had to do what needed to be done. Taking a deep breath, I approached the single open door. The closer I got, the stronger the urge to run, but I resisted. I bent down to peer into the narrow crack of the black door, and came face to face with a bloodshot eye. I had anticipated this. No panicking, no stupid moves. I carefully slid something I had prepared through the door crack. A pack of cigarettes. It felt like something icy grazed my fingertips. The door creaked open wider. In this alley, entering shops was generally prohibited, but the use of addictive items like alcohol or cigarettes occasionally allowed for temporary exploration. Retrieving my now empty hand, I clenched my teeth. Wow, I could cry, seriously.
Opening a business contacts door with a simple 5,001 investment? You're amazing, Supervisor.
I'd rather have someone else persuade me to that degree, honestly. I'd be able to just go ahead comfortably like them. But since I was the one who had done the persuading, I could only trudge forward in regret. The bloodshot eye was gone, but a faint scent of cigarettes lingered. Better than before. I sighed in relief and stepped inside. It was pitch black, but I could vaguely make out shapes. Stacks of boxes and items draped in black cloth formed a maze-like space. The musty scent of a warehouse filled the air.
Ah, if this is a discount warehouse or overstock store, we could find plenty of valuable items.
Pushing past the boxes, I finally spotted what I was looking for.
Mr. Roe dear, over there.
A second door stood deeper inside. It looked similar to the one we'd just entered, but it was less worn and much cleaner. I guess I'll have to open this one too. At least I wasn't at the back of the group this time. I stepped forward, grabbed the doorknob, and pulled hard. A dazzling, colorful light pierced my eyes. As my vision gradually recovered from the flood of light, the space before me slowly came into focus. A dazzling scene filled my eyes. Elegant chandeliers made of crystal and brass, deep-toned wooden structures forming the interior framework, and walls adorned with golden frames and thick, glossy green velvet curtains. But the most striking element was the 3 ivory torsos lining the walls. Each displayed an unfinished suit or dress, with disembodied gloved hands meticulously measuring and tailoring the garments in between. My teammates gawked, their mouths hanging open. How could such a scene suddenly appear after that eerie back alley, one might ask? That was truly a back alley.
Confirmed sections of Death Lane, 38 Boutique Back Alley.
We had entered this lavish boutique through the filthy back streets. Naturally, we weren't legitimate customers. We were nothing more than thieves who'd slipped in through a slum-like area filled with vagrants and dismissed laborers, bribing our way in with a pack of cigarettes. But irregular methods in ghost stories weren't exactly new. If things go south, we'll just bolt. If caught trespassing, we'd likely face a gruesome fate, but that's when I'd rely on brawn to erase our presence and escape. The back door exit is ready, after all. That's why I'd saved my request to Braun until now. Please, don't be impressed, everyone. Despite my nervousness, the gloves tending to the torsos reacted in unison. With a light whistle, the gloves suddenly attached themselves to the bodies of mannequins, clad in sophisticated navy uniforms. They resembled the figures we saw in the alley but were far cleaner, neater, and more detailed. Even the heads appeared. The mannequins' painted faces stared back at us. Don't make eye contact. I quickly averted my gaze. It was eerie, but bearable. The mannequin bowed deeply, its posture polite, and gestured for me to follow. Of course, following it would result in certain disappearance. Assistant Manager Choi went missing after following the directions of a mannequin clerk. These were the last words in the last communication from the employee. I think I'm heading to the membership registration corner of Boutique Street.
Additional note. A vagrant wearing the missing employee's broken glasses was later spotted in the back alley of the boutique, presumed to be the employee. Refer to Exploration Record T-Chist 145.
It implied the assistant manager had been forced into labor for debt repayment upon being exposed as a trespasser, or perhaps the membership registration fee never got paid. Either way, I tried not to imagine what those grotesque figures in tattered uniforms once were. That's irrelevant now. The only thing that mattered was this. Membership registration was dangerous and must be avoided. For now, I'll try to buy something at the non-member price. If only members could purchase, I'd bolt. My life was worth more than what I came for. But as I raised my hand to gesture goodwill, the mannequins flinched as though a signal had appeared on their printed faces, and I knew exactly why. I turned my arm to check. Beneath my raised shirt cuff, a familiar Latin word peeked through.
Does this count as membership verification?
The mannequin bowed deeply. Now this was unsettling. This is the second time already. The theme park membership tattoo left by the mascot had granted me authority within another ghost story. The Latin term for companion, member, kinsman. As Braun had said, the word's meaning seemed to carry universal significance across different places. Even the Fox counselor had recognized it. Why did it leave this on me? Before, I might have seen it as sheer luck and moved on, but things felt different now. I'd experienced firsthand how devastating contamination could be. This thing is powerful, but it's bound to affect me just as strongly. This was no ordinary mark, summoned through some verified ritual. It was an unpredictable, potent symbol etched into my skin. Still, the membership verification had already succeeded. If it was dangerous, I might as well use it wisely. The mannequins nodded once more and moved toward the torsos they had been working on. They pulled back the curtain behind them, revealing a glass display case as if by magic. Inside was a sleek, elegant suit. Similar in style to the one I was currently wearing, though its deeper hues and peculiar sheen gave it an otherworldly quality. The mannequins clasped their hands politely and looked at me, as if asking if I liked it.
Hold on. I'm mostly looking for small, giftable accessories.
There was one important rule to remember here. You must never be greedy. Attempting to take something beyond your means would undoubtedly result in a price far too steep for any human to bear, whether in barter or currency. So I needed to narrow my scope.
I'd prefer something casual and easy to wear daily.
The curtain fell, and when it rose again, the contents of the glass display had changed, as if by magic. Gone were the torsos. Instead, there were 3 or 4 upper-body mannequins. Around their necks, arms, and fingers, accessories gleamed under the light. I scanned them carefully, picking out the lightest and least conspicuous item. Its elegant engraving was delicate, and it looked as though it required the least material to craft. In other words, it appeared to be the cheapest. The mannequins simultaneously raised their hands, pointing at my companions behind me. According to the unknown, the standard form of barter in this boutique is...
Assistant Manager Unknown successfully posed as an existing boutique member using mind-disrupting equipment. Purchased item, ring. Cost, 3 civilians. 1 age 35, 2 age 21. For government audit purposes, this exploration record was transferred. Full document access limited to C-level security clearance.
And you, excuse me, but what exactly is happening right now? Ah, I see. Please wrap it up.
The mannequins moved with precision, delicately removing the chosen ring from the glass case. From somewhere, they brought out a silk string with an elegant tag and tied it to the ring. Then, as if inviting me to inspect it, they presented it to me. On the tag, fine script was written in impossibly tiny, elegant letters. Rather than risk treading the direct path to Death Lane contamination by trying to read it, I turned to my reliable friend. Braun, would you mind reading this?
No problem! It says, specialized tailoring, eternal luster that never fades. The craftsmanship of a noble artisan always present. Sounds like the kind of pitch that appealed to nouveau riche or social climbers. Oh, but let's keep that between us, friend!
Never fades, always present. Those keywords were exactly what I had anticipated. They suggested abilities tied to durability and permanence. I recalled that in the exploration record mentioning the purchased item, ring, there was a separate wiki entry describing its origins. A large-scale mental contamination incident. The sole surviving company employee from that incident had reportedly traded 3 civilians for this boutique's ring and worn it to survive. How could I not think of that? The event was connected to the merch that I owned. That one catastrophic train accident, all because of the Silver Heart. The only surviving Daydream Inc. employee from the Tamra Express disaster. They claimed to have lost the piece of equipment, a ring, immediately after the incident. The ring was suspected to have played a decisive role in their survival. This incident was documented under the Disaster Management Bureau's human error cases, and it held the longest entry, even adapted into a short story for the company's wiki. A ring crucial enough to ensure survival without contamination during such a massive disaster. To provide coherence and narrative depth to the ring's origin, the boutique entry was created as its source. In short, the accessories and garments sold here are indirectly verified by the wiki. When worn, they supposedly provide resistance in situations that disrupt the steadiness of one's mind, such as mental confusion or brainwashing. This could be powerful mental defense equipment, a must-have for someone like me, who'd narrowly escaped disaster due to contamination before.
Perfect. I'll take this ring.
The mannequin staff lined up neatly and began clapping in unison. It was an enthusiastic response to my decision to purchase the ring. Meanwhile, the 2 colleagues who had followed me stood there, dumbfounded by the situation. The ring I had chosen paired with the 2 humans deemed suitable for barter. The mannequins stopped clapping and, as if preparing to finalize the payment, began walking toward the 2 standing behind me.
However, I'd like to propose a change in the payment method.
The mannequin chins halted abruptly and turned to look at me. Yes, it was true that this boutique accepted humans for barter. It had been done before, and the transaction was still viable. If you think about it fundamentally, whether as grunt workers or as individuals promoted to become mannequins like these, the wiki had already detailed this fact. In other words, humans were accepted because they provided definite something operational. So, aside from labor, what else could offer definite something? The answer was obvious. Resource procurement. I reached into my tattoo and pulled out an item. The most valuable substance I had prepared.
I'd like to pay with this.
Even in a ghost story, the sudden appearance of capitalism's shining star caused my colleagues behind me to stir. Honestly, after nearly emptying my balance on that alien shop, I debated whether or not to use this. Good thing I grabbed it on my way through Jongno. Gold and silver are classic staples in ghost stories. Unlike silver, which is primarily used for exorcisms, gold carries a more universal symbolic weight, often associated with greed or ritualistic offerings. It's a versatile currency.
Will this suffice as payment?
A mannequin wearing a more formal uniform approached me. It bent its head low over the small gold bar and politely extended both hands. I'd been prepared to flee if this failed, but the situation couldn't have turned out better. I placed the gold bar in the mannequin's hands. The mannequin stepped back, then returned from behind the glass case, holding the ring in even more elaborate packaging. The silver ring I had purchased now rested on a velvet cushion embossed with an intricate snake design. Even the cushion is included. Since taking the cushion didn't prompt any reaction, I stored everything in my tattoo inventory. Next, 2 other mannequins stepped forward, each holding a rectangular velvet box. Though the boxes were identical in shape, their contents were different. The one on the left contained an elegant, traditional pouch with an opening that revealed coins printed backward. It was an additional profit. The pouch's weight was noticeably heavier than the coins I'd received at the butcher shop earlier, and the coins themselves were larger and thicker. Clearly, they were of a different denomination. This must all be mine. Already leaning toward the more practical option, I glanced at the other box. Inside were various small trinkets, accessories, though calling them that felt like a stretch. They didn't seem wearable or worth gambling on for potential mental defense properties. Clearly, they were trying to pitch some additional sales before handing over the change. The universal currency seems like the better option. But just as I reached that conclusion, one particular item caught my eye among the trinkets. A small ribbon hair tie. Its material was unclear, but its sleek, dark brown sheen looked expensive.
Can I take that as well?
I pointed at the hair tie. The mannequins clapped again and removed half of the coins from the pouch, before presenting the remaining change to me with a bow. I accepted the neatly packaged items and stored them in my tattoo.
Wow, I've been thinking about this for a while. That ability of yours looks incredible. What kind of equipment are you using?
I turned to Kang Yihak, who was grinning slyly. Did she not realize I could bartered her and the other colleague away? Let's try this one more time. I decided to attempt one final gambit. Act like a lunatic to avoid being messed with.
If I were to sell one sentient being, how much gold could I get in return?
Huh? Why would you even think of something so illogical? Haha, you'd probably get a few more gold bars by selling kidneys or corneas instead.
Is this a normal way of thinking? It clearly wasn't. So I gave up arguing. This was getting seriously unsettling. I just have to endure this until we escape from this ghost story. Instead, I decided to offer my colleagues a carrot. I divided the change from my pouch into 3 parts and handed some to each of them.
I'm lending this to you. If you use it, repay me in gold. If you don't use it by the time we leave, I'll take it back.
Jang Heoun was the first to bow his head in gratitude. I could brush off Kang Yihak as someone utterly beyond my comprehension, but I couldn't understand why Jang Heoun was so calm. What on earth did you go through on the round-off team? At the start of this mission, I'd thought, this is going to be a reliable exploration with my sane colleagues. But now, I'd reached a point where I actually missed Baek Deok-soo. At least that guy was predictably awful. Here, I was practically bathing in cold sweat. When I noticed Kang Yihak raising the coins to inspect their surface, I quickly intervened.
Don't look too closely.
Gold never fails, does it?
Excuse me, Miss Pony. Isn't it dangerous to make such conclusions? There are many things more valuable than gold in this world.
Haha. Well, Mr. Buffalo, let me give you a tip as a fellow colleague. What do you think is the most valuable use of a wish?
A wish? To save people and benefit the world, I'd imagine.
Hey, there are so many people in the world. No. It's more efficient to endlessly produce what's scarce and valuable. And that is none other than the Midas touch.